Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
You're
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
He's 71 years old. That is impressive, yeah. And I feel like I can relate to him because since he took office, we all feel 71 years old. I feel like we've aged so much.
So the president is a man in his 70s who wants a golf score in the 60s, his country in the 50s, and a wife in her 20s.
I'm glad Donald Trump can finally have a day where he's the center of attention. What do you get the man who has everything? I know something he doesn't have, the popular vote.
At the White House, they had a little party for the president. They played Pin the Blame on the Press Secretary. Melania jumped out of a cake and made a run for it. Vladimir Putin didn't show up, but he gave Trump his president back in November, so he took care of that already.
He got a lot of birthday cards from different people, and we actually got our hands on a few of them. Here's one from Al Gore. It says, warmest wishes. Open it up, it says, due to climate change. And you go, this next one is from Sean Spicer. It says, today I'm toasting to you. Then inside it says, because you're the reason I drink every day. This next one is from Jeff Sessions. It says, today I have only one thing to say to you. Open up, it says, I can't recall.
Yeah. I didn't know it was his birthday yesterday, did you? You know what he got for his birthday? An obstruction of justice investigation. Yay! He got that, and he got a lawsuit filed against him by nearly 200 congressional Democrats. They filed a lawsuit yesterday to allege that he breached the Constitution, the clause of the Constitution that forbids federal office holders from taking foreign payments and gifts, or as we like to call it, the emoluments clause. So that's what he got for his birthday. Isn't that exciting for the man who has everything? A lawsuit and an open investigation by Bob Mueller into obstruction of justice. And I don't think that he knew about it. I think that he heard it through the grapevine. Yeah. I think that, he was told this while he was trying to get into Steve Scalise, his hospital room. You know, Steve Scalise is in worse shape than we thought yesterday. Apparently that bullet that hit his hip shattered his pelvis, hit a lot of bones and some vital organs down there. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. But, we don't want to talk about guns in this country. No. We don't want to talk about it. Yesterday when we were talking about the guns and we were talking about the fact that we had two mass shootings yesterday, two of them, only paid attention to one because, one of them had to do with, Steve Scalise and a bunch of lobbyists playing ball or something like this. And, so the whole country turned its lonely eyes to that. But there was another one yesterday in, we just mentioned it, at a UPS package delivery facility in San Francisco. 4 dead, including the gunman. Yesterday, we had the only person that died in the baseball practice assault was the gunman himself. But like I said, Steve Scalise is in bad. Not that we hear about the lobbyist. I don't know what his condition. They just don't. They don't want to report about that. But so that brings the number up in this country: 154 mass shootings, 6,880 gun-related deaths, 13,504 firearm injuries, and that's just in the first part of 2017 alone. Woohoo! We're number one. Damn it. Yeah, and a mass shooting is defined as a shooting where 4 or more people, excluding the shooter, have been shot. So there you have it, everybody. But let's not talk about guns. No, let's talk about the rhetoric that comes out of the left. No, let's not do that. Let's not talk about the rhetoric that comes out of the left. Let's not even talk about the rhetoric that comes out of the right, because if you want to talk about the rhetoric that comes out of the right, then I believe we have to start. Oh, let's see. Where should we start? I'll start here in 2009.
To claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This too is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
Yeah, I think that's when it started.
Not true. And one more misunderstanding I want to clear up. Under our plan, no federal dollars will be used to fund abortions, and federal conscience laws will remain in place.
Okay, so I believe this is when the violent or the inappropriate or the disrespectful or the bursting out into, calling people liars started. I really do believe that. I think it was with Joe Wilson from South Carolina during a State of the Union address when Barack Obama was trying to explain the health care bill and saying that, we would not use any federal dollars, obviously, to fund abortion and that no illegal aliens would be eligible for Obamacare. And Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie." And it just degenerated into the Tea Party. And the Tea Party people were some of the most, well, forget the ignorance, because, there's a million reasons why America is so dumbed down, and today is not the day. But forget the ignorance. Just the violence and the rhetoric and the Obama with a rope around his neck and Obama with a bone through his nose and the witch doctor, and then of course it downshifted into birtherism, where he was illegitimate, and Trump was the leader of that movement.
Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? I think he probably
have to?
Because I have to and everybody else has to. I really believe there's a birth certificate. Why? Look, she's smiling. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? And you know what? I wish he would, because I think it's a terrible pall that's hanging over him. He should show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my God,
that's a terrible
that
thing
is
to
just...
say.
Recently, you've spent a lot of time talking about President Obama's birth certificate, or lack thereof. You don't seem convinced that he has one.
No, I'm not convinced that he has one. 3 weeks ago when I started, I thought he was probably born in this country, and now I really have a much bigger doubt than I did before.
But based on what?
And you know what? His grandmother in Kenya said he was born in Kenya, and she was there and witnessed the birth, okay? He spent $2 million in legal fees trying to get away from this issue, and if he weren't lying, why wouldn't he just solve it? And I wish he would, because if he doesn't, it's one of the greatest scams in the history of politics and in the history, period. I have people that actually have been studying it, and they cannot believe what they're finding.
You have people now down there searching, in Hawaii?
Absolutely, and they cannot believe what they're finding.
Good morning. Today, I'm very proud of myself because I've accomplished something that nobody else has been able to accomplish. I was just informed while on the helicopter that our president has finally released a birth certificate. I am really honored, frankly, to have played such a big role in hopefully getting rid of this issue. Now, we have to look at it. We have to see, is it real? Is it proper? What's on it? But I hope it checks out beautifully. I am really proud. I am really honored. We know very little about our president. I'm very honored to have gotten him to release his long-form birth certificate, or whatever it may be. Now, many people have questions, and very serious questions.
Okay, I want to ask you a last question before you leave. You can leave, but I'd like you to stay. Is Donald Trump honest when he says that Barack Obama isn't a legitimate president?
So I knew you were going to ask that question.
Well, because
and
he's
you know what I'll say?
I
don't talk about that anymore. Okay,
you really believe this guy's an illegitimate president?
I don't want to answer the question. Did you have a good time? Was it a good interview?
And so this illegitimacy that Donald Trump raised, it just permeated through this whole teabagging, experience that this country enjoyed. The teabagging, the endless teabagging that we all had to live through and suffer through. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but teabaggers started showing up at Obama rallies with guns.
including the one the president had today in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. William Kostrick's a protester who came to the town hall meeting today with a gun. Mr. Kostrick, why did you come to the president's town meeting today?
Well, Chris, first I'd like to correct...
No, why did you come to the meeting?
I came to the meeting to be heard.
And what did you want to say?
Well, I wanted people to remember the rights that we have and how quickly we're losing them in this country.
And what rights are we losing that you wanted to talk about the meeting today at the town meeting on health care?
There are a litany of them. It doesn't take a genius to see we're traveling down a road at breakneck speed that's towards tyranny, away from liberty, and that has much to do with excessive taxation. One party wants to take our money and bail out corporations. The other one wants to take our money and bail out welfare cases. Neither party wants to listen to the people who believe that they own their property and what we earn is ours.
Who did you vote for last November, sir? Do you mind telling me? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Ron Paul.
All right, then. And, you know, this guy went to the presidential town hall meeting in Portsmouth, New Hampshire with a gun. And more people, Tea Party types, kept showing up with "Don't Tread on Me" flags and guns. And when you ask them, why are they showing up with, they said, "My rights are being trampled. Taxes are too high." And when you pointed out to them that under Ronald Reagan, taxes were higher, they just go down. They say they don't believe you. They don't believe you. And so these were the most ignorant people who had absolutely no information at the top of their heads about, excessive taxation that we had lived through, and 18% interest rates on home mortgages during the Ronald Reagan years. And of course, now taxes were, completely they almost don't exist, to the point where we had to invent something called the alternative minimum tax so that millionaires and billionaires would pay some damn thing. This is what Donald Trump paid. He paid the alternative minimum tax. And now they're out to remove that so millionaires and billionaires will pay nothing. Now, these people are famous for voting against their own best interests. But the thing about the Tea Party with the guns and the violent rhetoric and the bone in the nose and, the talk about changing the hope sign. Remember the Obama very famous hope poster? They changed it to rope. And all of this stuff. It really did begin with Joe Wilson's disrespectful outburst at a State of the Union address and just downshifted from there. And so God help you, after all these many years of Tea Party nonsense, of Joe Wilson, of the 2010 Tea Party, election, of all the hatefulness that they spewed, and the showing up locked and loaded, and the showing up of with their guns on the outside of their khakis, Now all of a sudden they want to say it's the left. It's the listen, this guy yesterday, obviously, I don't know why the media didn't report it until last night or today, that this man had a very lengthy domestic violence shooting in towards his neighbor's house, that he was living at the YMCA for a month or two, in the lobby, and I don't know why they chose to leave all that out. But it doesn't have anything to do with the rhetoric on the left. Now, I am so patient with people that disagree with me that the people that agree with me get angry with me for the patience that I show, because they're rude and insulting, and they act like grade schoolers. So now we have people who sucker punch people at events, and we have people that running for president that say I'll pay your legal fees. We have people running for president going get him out, get him out, get him out, and screaming lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. And somehow it's the left. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.